Hello there everyone, my name is Christina and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a goddess macrame necklace. So this is what mine looks like here. So you get this really nice curved effect, it's going to sit really nicely on the neckline. Obviously this is just the materials that I've used, so a nice silvery coloured satin cord and then with these magenta coloured hematite gemstone beads. And then I've just finished it off with a nice clasp to make it nice and professional, but you could also use macrame to finish it off, so a sliding knot something, whatever your personal preference is. But then this is what it looks like, and it could be fun to play around with the colouring, for instance, of the beads. So maybe say the smaller beads on top are one colour and then the larger ones on the bottom are another colour, just to see what kind of different effects that will get. Now also this is the necklace. I've already made both a bracelet and a ring using the goddess macrame design here, so you can pretty much make a whole set now. This is then the necklace version. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. So it's these materials that we're going to need. Now I have my cord here and I'm using a 1mm satin cord in this nice grey silvery colour, and then we'll need the beads as well. So I have two different sizes here, they're both regular rounds and I'm just working with a colour coded hematite, so this kind of magenta coated hematite. The first ones here, the big ones, these are 8mm in the size, and then here we have 6mm in the size. So we need these two to achieve the curved effect to give to the necklace there. So you can obviously use whatever combination that you want of the cord and the beads. So let's get it all together and then let's get started. And then we'll need some lengths of cord to start working with, and what I have here first of all are two lengths of my satin cord of about 80 centimeters each, and these are going to be for the holding cords, so throughout the whole necklace there, and also holding the beads. And then we'll also need another length of the same cord here, and this one is about 6 meters long. Now that's quite a bit obviously, but it is a full necklace that we're making, and it's mainly, this is going to be the working cord, and it's mainly because of the sides of where the beads are on each side there. We're making a lot of square knots, so it's going to use up a lot of the cord. So what I've then done is taken the two short lengths of cord here that are going to be the holding cords and attach them onto my macrame board. And I'm just using the notches there, so they're nice and taut, because then we're going to start out by making a long section of our square knots using the working cord. And what I've done with that is we need to attach it first of all, but I've taken the ends of my working cord, put them together so that we can then find where the middle is. I have a little loop here, keep hold of that. Then we need to attach this first of all, like I said. So I just take one end while I still keep hold of the middle, put that underneath the two holding cords, and then pull that all the way through. And then I'm going to just have the middle lying underneath there, and then we'll basically need to start making square knots straight away. That's how we attach it as well. So I'm going to take my left cord, bring it over the two holding cords, like that. Then I'm going to take my right one, I'm just holding on to this up here, just for the very first knot, because obviously this can move around, and I want to try and keep the middle underneath there. Take the right one over the left one on this side, underneath everything in the middle, and then up through the loop here. And then pull it all the way through. And then we need to tighten this again without trying to move the middle of the cord too much. Tighten this all the way up there. And that's the first half of a square knot, but it's also now the working cord that's attached to the holding cords there. So to finish off this square knot, I'm going to then take the cord from the right side, so from the opposite side, over the holding cords, bring the left one over that and underneath everything in the middle, and then up through the loop, and then pull the cord all the way through. And now I don't have to hold on up here anymore because it's already attached, and tighten this, and then there you have your full first square knot. So you just want to keep repeating this. So again, I'm going back to the first cord that I used, starting from the same side, which was the left one that I started with. Bring that over the holding cords, take the right one over that, underneath everything in the middle, and up through the loop, and pull it all the way through, and tighten. And again, that was the first half of the square knot. Now we just need to finish off and make a full square knot. So I'm going to take the right cord over the holding cords, and the left one over that, underneath everything in the middle, and up through the loop, and then pull it all the way through, and then we can tighten it. So there we now have the second square knot. So what you just want to do now is keep repeating this step till we have a long section of square knots. Now how long you make this is really up to you, because it's going to help determine how long the necklace is going to end up being. So I'm going to keep making this, and then once we've made the whole section that we need, so the length that we need of square knots here, then we get to the beaded section. So I now made the whole length of my square knots here until we then reach where the beaded section is going to be. So this is almost 1/2 of the necklace. Now my length here is 29 centimeters, or about 9 inches of the length of square knots. But like I said, you can make that longer or shorter depending how long you want your full necklace to be. And obviously it's going to be the same length on the other side of the beaded section as well. So now we need to start adding in the beads. So what we need to do is we have the 2 holding cords here, and that's what we need to add the beads onto. So on one side I've just taken the right one, that's where I've added all the large beads, so all these here, and what I've added is 15 of these 8mm beads that I'm using. So 15 of those all on the same cord, and then of the 6mm beads I've added 14 of those on the other one, also all on the same one. So obviously you can then see it looks like one is shorter than the other one, but that's what's going to end up giving that curved effect. So this is what it's going to look like now. So I'm just going to push these up, because then we need to start obviously wrapping around the beads. What I also just want to do is just put my cords into position, because what I like to do is take the cord, working cord from one side underneath the 2 holding cords, so underneath both of them here, over to the other side, and just all the way up there. This is just to get them into position. The same thing with the other one. Take it underneath your holding cords, and obviously that includes all your beads here, and then just over to the opposite side. So both are basically just crossing over the back of the holding cords, just like that. I just find that's a better starting point, and we end up with a nicer result just at the top there. So now the cords are ready to start wrapping around the beads here. So I'm just going to start using one cord at a time. Now you can just separate your beads out just to make it a bit easier, so you know exactly where you got to go with your cord. So all you want to do is you want to make sure that there's kind of 1 bead per 1 bead on each side. So just because the side here with the smaller beads, it looks like it's shorter because obviously the beads are smaller, we're still going to act and wrap around as if we're using 1 bead from each side at a time. So for instance, if they were the same size, because then we're going to fix the whole curvature afterwards. So what I'm going to do is start with my right one. I'm coming behind the very first large bead there, and then I'm going to take it and wrap around just below the large bead, the first one, and then also below the first of the small ones. So crossing over to the other side and coming down at an angle. It's going to look a little something like that. And then pull it all the way over, and then we need to come underneath the holding cords again. So that means underneath all the beads there. So just bring it underneath the 2 holding cords and the beads, so it's coming under there, and then we'll pull it so on the back it crosses also at an angle, but comes back down a bit further on the other side here again on the right side. But then we need to come out below the second large bead there. So basically the back is going to end up looking like the front once we're done. And then to the next crossover, and then bring in my cord over the front underneath the next bead here that I'm coming out of, underneath, and that's the second one from the top in this case, and then underneath the second one of the small beads as well. Like I said, we're constantly just taking 1 bead at a time from each side. And then we need to go underneath the holding cords again, bring it all the way up, make sure that your cord goes in between the right beads there. So you'll be able to see, now it's starting to form more, that we're going to have the cord is coming at an angle, and the beads, they're separating out the beads 1 at a time from each side. The next one come down below the next large bead there, the third one in this case, cross over the top of them, below that one and below the third one on the side with the small beads, and underneath the holding cords again, and pull it all the way up. And again, cross back behind them all so you come out ready under the next large bead. So in this case it's the fourth one. You just want to keep doing this all the way down. Like I said, don't worry about the curvature yet, because we're going to sort that after we've done both of the cords here. So just keep doing this all the way down to the bottom, and then it's time to do the other cord as well. So now I kept wrapping all the way around to the bottom here, and the cord is coming out over the top where I have the last large bead, but then there's no bead of the small ones there, because remember we put one less of them to make it fit and look nice with the necklace once it's done. Then what I'm just going to do is wrap around one more time to make sure my cord is coming out on the same side that I started from, which is on the right one. So just put it underneath the two holding cords, and then make sure it comes up below that very last large bead, as if it was crossing over to do another wrap if there was more beads. So just like that, that's this cord done then. So just leave this there. Now if you're using macrame board like me, you can always just put this into a slot on the side. It holds it nice and in place, so it's not going to come too loose while we're then working with the other one as well. So now to go back up to the top again, where we started with that cord. You can see here we have the other cord left to do as well, and that's coming from the left side. So all we want to do basically is the same thing, we're just working in the opposite direction. So this is naturally coming, wanting to cross over the top and the front here, where we're just going to first of all trap the large bead, the first one there in place, and not capturing any of the small ones just yet. So cross over the top there, the front, then take your cord back underneath the holding cords and all the beads, pull it all the way through, and then make sure when you pull this tighter. Also, you don't want to pull too tight when you're wrapping around here. This is a nice even tension. We want it to make sure, obviously you're capturing that just below the top, very first bead of the large ones, and then coming out below the first ones of the small ones. And then crossing over the front again. And now it's basically just the same pattern as before, just mirrored. So this is going to capture below the first of the small ones, and then the second one of the large ones there. You can see that's where you then get this zigzag effect. Over the front, come back underneath again, pull it all the way through, and then out to the other side, just like that. And then we just keep doing this, and make sure you come below the next of the small beads, wrap across the front, and just keep going like this all the way down to the bottom again. Now then also reach the bottom with this left cord that we were working with, all the way wrapping around just like I said, and then this is naturally coming out to its own side again. So just like this. So now we're ready, we have both the cords into position, then also trap the beads in place, because obviously the bottom ones especially are still loose. So you just want to make sure to capture this in place as well. The way I'm going to do that is just make a square knot below these bottom beads, just using the cords as they are. So I'm going to take my left one, just going to start with the same cord that I did previously, and then I'm going to take my right one over that, underneath the holding cords, everything in the middle there, and up through the loop. Now the first square knot is the most fiddly, because like I said, both the cord down here and the beads are still loose, but just kind of maneuver it in place before you then go in and tighten your cords all the way up underneath the very last bead there, and pull it nice and tight. So there, now they're all basically trapped in place. They're not going to keep moving around. I'm just going to make the other half of this square knot to finish it off, just like this. So now I know it's nice and securely in place. But obviously this whole piece with the beads is still straight, so that's what we have to fix now. So I made that first square knot down here on the other side of the beads just to hold it all in place, but then also I just want to make the one and not keep making more, because then it might get too hard to do this next step. So to make this curvature, get that into the beads, what I'm going to do is I'm releasing my holding cords here now, and don't worry, it's not going to come undone because we made that square knot that's going to hold it in place. And then I'm going to hold on to them, and then we'll basically need to start pushing the beads together. So it's especially the small ones, because obviously those are the ones that are taking up less space than the large ones. So all I'm going to do is keep hold of it nicely and then start pushing the beads together just like this. And also the square knot there, because that's what I mean, I only want to make the one square knot ideally. If I make too many, it might get too tight and tough to push it up. But making just the one, it holds it in place. but we can then still push it up over the holding cords. So you just want to push them together until you're then happy with the nice curve that you get, and it's going to sit nicely. So end up looking something a bit like that. So just look at it, keep pushing until you feel like you can't really push anymore, but then also just until you're happy with how it looks and the nice curvature that you then get, because that's what's going to make it so it sits nicely on the neckline. So we have the first side made with all the square knots, then we have the midsection here with the beads, and this sits nicely now, I think. So I'm quite happy with that. So all that's left to do now is just going to flip this around, because we obviously need to make all the square knots on this side as well to mirror the other side. So this can then be a little bit hard to say attach to your board if you're working on something else. What you can do to make it a little bit easier is maybe use something like pins. So just pin your work, the first couple of knots that you make here, pin it into a board, and then you can work with it nicely. But otherwise you just want to continue. I'm just going to do it quickly here, making more square knots. So start with the same cord that you did previously, over, and the other one goes over that and underneath everything in the middle, up through the loop, and then tighten it nicely. The other half of the square knot, just like I showed previously, and tighten that all the way up, and that's your next square knot. And then if you want to, after you've made a couple square knots, just do one last tug on this just to make sure it sits just how you want it to, and this knot come a little bit loose. So you just want to keep making your knots here. You can either count your knots if you want to, but obviously it's quite a lot to count, or just measure it. Like I said, I'm going to make the same length of knots on this side that I'm working on now as I did in the beginning to get a nice and even necklace. So keep doing that, and then all that's left to do is finish it off. So I've now finished making this section of square knots on this side as well, and then we have both sides, and I've made sure the lengths are even, and then we basically have the main part of the necklace done. And it looks like that, and it has this really nice curvature, so it's going to sit nicely on the neckline because of the beads there, and then obviously the sections of the square knots. So this is done, so all that's left to do now is finish off the ends up here, so obviously it can be worn. Now you have a few choices of how you can do this, it's really personal preference. Personally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using these cord ends that look like this, where you just put your cord inside. I'm going to put a bit of glue as well, clamp around them, and then you can use these loops on them to attach your findings, so clasp and extended chain, which I'm going to be doing. So that's one option. You can also do a regular macrame sliding knot, just like you can do a mini macrame bracelets. There's really personal preference. If you want to do the sliding knot, I maybe would recommend making your holding cords a bit longer, as you can see here, so you have enough length to make the sliding knot and then enough to obviously adjust it as well. Now I have a tutorial where I show how to finish off macrame, in that case bracelets, in both ways, but obviously it'll work for either necklaces or bracelets. So if you want to have a look at that, I'm going to put a link to that in the description box below. It's going to be helpful for that. I'm just going to be doing it here using the cord ends, but if you need to have a look, go and have a look at that tutorial there. So finish off your ends here however you want to. So I then finished off the ends of my necklace here, and then it looks like this, and the sides up to my clasp. I've just used a lot of claw clasp and extended chain. Like I said, finish it off however you want to, whatever your preference is. So this is what it looks like. So it's a really nice and simple design, but I think it gives a really nice impact, and also be fun to play around with, say, the beads and the colour of the beads. Maybe make some pattern here, whether it's one colour for the small ones and one colour for the big ones, and see what that looks like. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this triple row wraparound bracelet, and it looks like this. So I've used some agate gemstones here in the centre, and then in this case I've just added a rhinestone chain to the outside rows. So it looks like this, and then with a button closure. And this is just what I'm going to show you in this case. You can always use beads instead of the chain, but I'm just going to use the chains just to show you how you can add that as well.